Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Our webinar topic is strategies on avoiding summer melt, which is a great topic. So as you're coming in, we ask that you will put your name and what institution you're representing in the chat box. Of course, not the chat box, the chat box. So I like to see who all is joining us today, and welcome. We also have a survey that we would like for you to complete at the end of the webinar. It's about 7 questions. And I want to give a big thanks to those who have already did this in the past, who've completed the survey. There is a question on there that asks for, what are the topics that you'd like for us to discuss, industry topics. And you have been very outspoken with that. And I just want to let you know that we hear you. And today's topic actually is from a suggestion that someone had recommended. And as I say, summer melt is something we need to discuss every year anyway. And also some of our topics or discussions and webinars that we're having in the future is based on some of the responses that we have received from you in the survey. So we thank you so much for completing that and voicing your opinion. So thank you again. Let's see who we have here in the chat. I don't have anybody coming in yet. Okay, I do see. Hi, Celeria from Prairie View A&M. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This webinar will be recorded and I will send it out as soon as it becomes available. Do we have anybody else who's going to tell us where you're from? Okay, there we go. They're rolling out now. We have Marissa from Houston Community College. Welcome. We also have Martin from Houston Community College. Hello, Richard. And they're coming in. We have Kahoma here. We also have Jarvis. Hi, Dr. Jones. We have, let's see here, HCC, someone else from HCC and Palo Alto College in San Antonio. Thank you and welcome. And as everybody else is coming in, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker today. We have Nicolette Besling. Nicolette is the Associate VP of Admissions at Concordia University. She has been in higher education for over 17 years, working both as a professor and in the Office of Admissions. Her time as a professor gives her a unique view on students, which benefits her in her current role as AVP of Admissions. In her time in admissions, Nicolette has created processes to not only increase enrollment, but to focus on retention and prevent melt. Together with her team, they have seen more engaged students, higher orientation numbers, an increase in honors students, a developed and thriving summer bridge program that is 4 times larger than last year. The work that has been done to increase student success and retention is something all of Concordia is very proud of. Thank you, Nicolette, for joining us today. We really and truly appreciate it. And for those of you who may not know me, my name is Teresa Tyus, and I have been in the higher education industry for close to 30 years. I started when I was 2. In my current role, I serve as an institutional support consultant here at Trellis, where I develop student enrollment, retention, and graduation initiatives at colleges and universities. Before joining Trellis, I served as Director of Business Development and as Account Manager at Higher Education Service Incorporation. I have an MBA from Texas Women's University, and I'm also an accredited financial counselor through the Association for Financial Counseling and Planning Education, also known as AFCPE. Okay, so looks like we're going to go ahead for the sake of time. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my PowerPoint. Okay, so today's webinar, again, we're going to be talking about strategies for avoiding summer melt. So our overview is that we're going to discuss summer melt and just give a simple definition of what summer melt is so everybody can be on the same page. We also can discuss some key points about this topic that you may or may not know about. You may be surprised with some of the facts that we have surrounding summer melt. And summer hurdles for our students. They already have their own, I would say, personal summer hurdles, but there's also problems that arise throughout the summer that may prevent that student from matriculating. So we're going to talk about those problems. We're going to talk about why summer melt matters, not only for you as an institution, but also for the student. We're also going to discuss some ways that we can hopefully reduce summer melt. And last but not least, how we can help. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Nicolette.
Thanks so much, Teresa. All right, so when we talk about what is summer melt, we are referring to the problem where our newly admitted students don't matriculate for the fall term. So they've committed or deposited, but they melt away during summer before they actually start. So we thought we had them, thought they were committed, and they end up not coming. Using the chat function, if you guys wouldn't mind, what do you think the average melt is at most institutions? What do you think we're facing here with this dilemma? Just some guesses. I'll give it a minute. Money. Money being the main problem. Everyone stopped after money. What do you think would be the average amount? What do you think the percentage could be of melt? Yeah, housing, Celeria said. Martin said 30 to 40%. That's a scary number. 15 to 20%, 20%. Yeah, thank you guys. You want to go to the next slide for me? We're actually looking at anywhere from 10 to 40%. So that's a really wide amount, right? And this is the amount of students that get accepted into admissions. Again, usually that committed level, deposited level, but they just don't show up in the fall. What we have seen and what studies have shown is that there are higher melt rates for students from lower and moderate income families and those with lower academic achievement. Melt rates are considerably higher among students who intend to actually go to community colleges compared to their peers planning to enroll at four-year colleges, which that should pique your interest, as I see a lot of people here were from a community college. So what do you guys think is the difference there? Why do you think there is a difference of higher melt at a community college compared to at a four-year college or institution? You want to put that in the chat as well. Less resources. Life, work, family. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. We're talking about a student who might have different commitments, and that's why they chose that community college, right? Yeah, there's no right answer. Every student is different, but just kind of having that conversation of why we see some of these differences, especially from those of you who do work at a community college and may experience this daily. So thank you for sharing. Go to the next slide. So summer melt typically has its own set of problems, right? So I know earlier, some of you mentioned the issue of money, right? So unexpected fees that come up, whether that be orientation fees, housing, placement tests, all the different fees that potentially the student maybe wasn't aware of early on, and now they just can't see how they could cover these. FAFSA verification, and really that goes hand in hand with that next point of confusing processes. If we're talking about a first generation student, for example, they may not have anybody who can assist them with these things. This could be literally a foreign language. Those of us who have filled out FAFSA many times, we know that when you see some of this for the first time, it's scary, it's daunting, and it could prevent somebody from continuing the process. And then just general issues. If we create road bumps for these students, whether that be we need this documentation, or this information was entered wrong, or we need additional documentation, that could be a road bump that they say, you know what, it's not worth it anymore, right? This is something that's gonna stop them from, whether it be picking up your phone calls or just even attending college. So we see some of these summer hurdles happen because early on in the enrollment process, it's all fun and games, right? I like to say we're the wooers, right? Anybody got wooers on your team? We're giving them the swag. We're pumping them up about college. We're telling them they can do this. We're getting them excited. Then once they're here, meaning committed, not necessarily a student yet, then we have to get down to the business side of things, right? And that can be really daunting for them. So these are some of the summer hurdles that I think we all probably are familiar with and face. So how many of your students are melting away? Do you know? And I know sometimes we don't want to maybe share these numbers, but if you wanted to, if you were able to share, what do you think your institution summer melt, whether it be coming up or past years is. If you could put that in the chat. Is it within that 10 to 40% that is the average that we're seeing? And do you know? You don't have to put it in the chat, that's okay. We're going to talk a little bit more about what we can do to help our students with some of these things. Too many, Martin says too many. I understand that. I do understand that. So before we talk about what we can do to help summer melt, why is summer melt so important to us overall as an institution, right? Obviously, these are our students. This is typically where our revenue comes from, right? Our largest revenue generators. So from a budget standpoint, without students, we may not hit those goals. Think about also our programs and our professors. Depending on where that melt is coming from, we may not be able to run a program or run certain classes if we don't have enough students for those programs. Obviously, fewer graduates does not help the overall mission of the institution, but also just our economy, right? We know that higher education leads to better pay, better, quality of life for a lot of students, opportunities that are afforded to them from healthcare to jobs. Again, breaking maybe some generational cycles by being a first generation college graduate. And so when we see this, right, it hurts the overall institution of higher ed. What about for students though? Again, we're all in this industry to help our students. And what are the consequences to them of not coming to school? How many of you have an adult degree program at your institution? Again, you can maybe just hit not the emojis, but do they have the options to do the thumbs up? HCC does. Thank you, Martin. When you talk to those adult degree completers, how long has it been since they went to college? I have found in my experience that a lot of those online programs or adult degree programs, it's been a handful of years since that student first went to college and is going back to try to finish. So when they melt, how long is it going to take for them before they make that decision again to try this, right? We always say that the most important step is that first step, right? Just applying, just trying. So if they quit before they start, their experience is nothing but that fear or whatever was holding them back. So those consequences could be long-term for them. Again, kind of like we said earlier, we've seen that higher education and furthering a student's education has a lot of benefits that are not even monetary, not job related, but truly health related. Again, that quality of life. Think about the type of job that you can get, right? Because you are able to, because you're qualified with that degree. As Teresa mentioned in my bio, I've been in higher ed just about all of my career, over 17 years, and I started in admissions, and then I actually went to become a professor. And I did that because at the time I was starting my family. It made sense for us. I needed to have a not as stressful position as I'm sure some of you guys can relate to. And I used to tell my students I was afforded that opportunity because I had my MBA. I was able to go and be a professor. That's not something you can just walk into, right? So again, there's just a lot of benefits for the student that they would be missing by not continuing that on. And then of course, the stats, we all know it, on average, a bachelor's degree holder does earn twice as much as the average high school graduate. And then of course, it just continues from there with even higher education. So when we look at MEL, it's not just about what it does to our bottom line and our goals at our institution and the programs we're trying to support, but also what is it doing to these students who are already obviously facing, whether it was the lack of family support, a family already, just life in general that they're struggling with. Those things don't go away just because you quit school, right? But now you're not able to progress forward. All right, so effective intervention. So what can we do about these things? Some of these things may feel a little out of our control, but what are some steps that we can take to try to prevent this for both our institution and our students? We'll go through these, and then I do want you guys to leave some comments on maybe some things like that you are doing in your institution that you find success with. So here's a whole host of different options here. So number one thing, and a lot of these kind of talk to it, is having that connection with the student, not stopping after they've committed. So whether that's hiring counselors or having student workers or having a peer mentor, but somebody should be reaching out to this student proactively during the summer, which almost gets harder because I know we work a lot with the high school college counselors, and then they go on their break and we're left to have this relationship with the student, right? And so what is it that's going to draw them in? It could be registering for classes, which is really exciting. You get to pick your classes, right? What do you want to take? How does the schedule look? You're not a morning person, start your day at noon. Or you're a morning person and finish your day by 2, right? So that can be exciting for them to own their schedule and get them involved in that. It could be an orientation. Our university this year, we decided to have an early orientation because we had some early commitments. We had a program for them this year, and it was the first time we did that. And everyone was just, hoping that these interventions actually do work. And guess what? We hit the amount of students that we wanted to. We were able to get 100 students into our first orientation that was in June, which that's pretty early for an orientation. But these students were ready and they were excited. They were some of our honors students, some of our students that were in special programming. So once again, to start getting them involved early and getting them excited about what's to come. We've also got different tasks for them to complete. So all of the things that we said were roadblocks, they don't have to be. It could be, come in, we're going to walk with you on how to fill out verification. We're going to give you this task of what to do, and we're going to be there continuing to walk alongside you through these processes. We also have a summer programming that's happening for some of our students, and we were able to get 4 times the amount of students we got last year in this program. And so that's huge, saying we want to make you college ready prior to college starting to prepare you. In our orientations, we also assign navigators, so current students who are almost that peer mentor to these students while they're here, to share about what to look forward to when they start college, so they don't just focus on the scary things. It could be the placement testing, it can be the housing, but you're constantly saying, this is what's next. This is the next thing to look forward to. Our institution created what are called personalized URL pages. And so they have a personalized web page that it goes over their program and everything that they're doing. And that's how they're able to look at that and know what's next. What do I have to do? Where do I go? What do I want to click on? What do I want to read? So this can be a really exciting time for them, but we have to create those opportunities. Now I do see a question, so I'll pause. It says, are you targeting specifically first generation students? Can you be specific? Because I didn't see that until now. Are you talking about the summer enrichment program or summer bridge for the orientations? In general for fall enrollment, we are not specifically targeting our first gen students for just fall. We did, for our summer enrichment program, target students who had a lower GPA. So students who would normally get denied, we had a specific GPA range that we focused on and said, we will provisionally admit you if you go through this summer programming to help prepare you to be college ready. And we did find that a lot of these students were first generation students. I hope that answered your question. If not, let me know. Yeah, you're welcome. And we've been really successful with it, and they've really had a good time. We've had students that came and they were going to live off campus, and because of this programming, they've decided to change that and live on campus. So we are already seeing the positive benefits of having this special programming for students who just need it a little bit more. what things are you guys doing? What are some of the interventions that your institutions have implemented that you've seen either work or maybe they didn't work, and we can discuss those. And again, you can post that in the chat. Phone calls, yes. I think summer is hardest for admissions because if you're like us, we're a rolling admissions institution. So we're still seeing students apply. And now your job turns into, I'm still getting students, but I can't do that at the cost of losing the ones we currently have, right? So to your point, those phone calls are still important. We have the steps to enrollment that are listed on the acceptance letters and the admissions website. These steps include most of your interventions. Great, that's wonderful. Yeah, making it accessible to students, right? Making sure they know this is the expectations and we're gonna put this everywhere you see it. Registration fairs before the end of each semester. That is wonderful for your continuing students, right? We did that as well. Provide ice cream. Our Student Central team did an amazing job of being present in the areas where students typically pass by and having fun treats for them, right? Registering them for the next semester. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, these are some great ones. Thank you for sharing. Any other ones?
Call campaigns, registration dates with all groups on deck. Advising enrollment, financial aid, parking, transportation. That's right. We take for granted that, right? We know our parking lot really well, but even things like that could really distract a student and make them feel nervous about school. So I love that you mentioned that, Iris. Parent engagement. Laura, thank you for mentioning that. Yes, you cannot have a successful MELT prevention plan without coming alongside the parent, right? That is a source of whether it be financial aid, verification, all the documents, but just that support at home, right, for the student. And they need to feel like they're a part of this as well. Oh, Martin, look at that plug for you, Teresa. We use Trellis.
Yes.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Yes, and I think we'll talk about that here in a minute. If you want to go to the next slide, we kind of talked about these two slides kind of together, if you will. So those summer workshops, like I mentioned, our summer enrichment. Sometimes your institution may have some emergency aid funding. So when you have those specific students that need that, being able to offer that, which again, what everyone is saying, you don't know that unless you're in constant communication with your student, right? So once again, it really has to do with having that relationship with your student. The pop-up advising, any kind of incentives, the personalized web pages, like I had mentioned. And again, there's that parent communication. I know we are just about to send out stickers to all the parents of our committed students that say, CTX parent, the proud car sticker, the decal. Even something like that, we have a series of things we're doing, almost like a drip campaign, a nurture campaign, if you will, but for mailing, so that the parent receives this special item right before school also to remind them of this exciting time, because it's exciting for them as well. And so as they're kind of figuring this out as a family, to your point, I don't remember who said that, but making sure that the parents are excited as well. So those are all wonderful suggestions, and it sounds like we're all on the right track for what we're doing and understanding that. So I think I will pass it on to Teresa here.
Okay, thank you so much. And if you guys have any other suggestions, or if you want to comment, go ahead and put them in the chat. I look like something, did I get everybody? Can we hear more about the personalized web pages? Can you talk a little bit for that?
I will, yeah. Thank you, Slaria, for that question. We just recently partnered with an organization and created what we call Pearl pages, P-U-R-L, so personalized URL. And so the student can go, instead of going to our website, they literally go to their own personalized website. They have, their name at, whatever that website would be. And on that, it is personalized literally with the major that they chose on their application. So, all the fun marketing tools and technology, they see that, it automatically gets built in, and their page will only have information about that program. So whether that's a blog about business, or the fact that the business students recently went on a mission trip in Costa Rica to over marketing. So they're able to talk about that, and they are focusing on what the business department is doing here. They're also going to have a checklist on the side that's specific to them. So application, checkmark, complete. Financial aid, checkmark, complete. But then it might say registered for classes, and they're not. So then that checkmark's open. And then if they click on that, it tells them, okay, this is what you need to do to get registered for classes. This is your next step. Housing, and then so it's going to go through this list of all the things they have to do. And so we all know sometimes our students are up when we are not up, right? So at 2 a.m, when they're thinking about college, they can go to that and know this is what I'm going to do next. And I know that sounds silly, but I can't tell you how many times we come in the morning and we're like, hey, so-and-so just filled out their housing form. So-and-so just committed. And that's 7 a.m. because they did it who knows what time over the night, but they have control now to see where they're at in their stage and able to do something with it. So we have found a lot of success. We even put our honors information, some of our summer programming, some of our special programming that we have for students, they can apply through that as well and learn more information. So it allows for them to have some control over what they want to know about us instead of always having to ask those questions, because they may not know what they want to ask. But we're hoping that these pages provide that information. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Nicolette. Thank you so much. So how can we help? Thank you so much for you guys who said that you're already using Trellis. For those of you who may be using Trellis, but not to the fullest, we do encourage you to let us help you get those students in the seats. So, studies have shown that students who receive any kind of nudge over the summer and are more likely to succeed or be successful in enrolling college than those who don't receive any form of intervention. The nudges can be sent via text, phone calls, email, even postcards or any other type of digital methods, and may, remind these students of the important deadlines or tasks that they need to complete. We also encourage that you use URLs, which most of our schools already do that, where if the student does need to complete, some task or orientation, they have that URL where they can just click on it and they can complete it. So of course, Trellis, as you know, we do provide those text and call nudges to boost engagement and enrollment. We offer text and call inbound responses for all messages. Our services have been proven to improve student engagement and boost enrollment and retention rates. And for those of you who are working with us, you know that our team of expert communication specialists are very dedicated to providing unparalleled support and guidance to help institutions achieve their goals. So this next slide right here is just a sample messaging. Again, for those of you who use Trellis, you kind of know how this works, but I'm showing you a sample message for using text campaigns and also calls. We try to personalize each and every communication or touch point with the students, because we know, especially for, as you say, first generation students or students who are just leaving high school, going into college, they're fearful. So calling them by their name, that means so much. You're personalizing it, you're making them feel welcome, you're making them feel wanted. And there's other institutions who are also wooing your students. So you definitely want to make sure that you're doing these soft nudges throughout the summer. I mean, even starting as early, I've read as early as like February is when summer melt, when we need to start working on those campaigns for those students to be enrolled for the fall. So again, these are just some samples that we use. Again, we try to use those first names that the students know that we're talking to them specifically and to complete those tasks. This is just a sample package for Summer Melt, some campaigns or communication touch points that we've done with students. Anything that we do with the text, we can pretty much do with a call campaign. And some of your institution may already have your texting platform, and that's perfectly fine. We can supplement those communication efforts with the call by following up every, week or two, just to make sure that student complete the task. Now, we don't want to over communicate, definitely don't, but we don't want them to get lost in the process as well. So when we are asking them to complete, a FAFSA or, admissions, or registration, if, Nicolette has already completed that task, then we don't want to, contact her again when we're sending those reminders. We want to be specific to those students who have not done that call to action. So again, we do welcoming that student to your campus, email setup, how to set up your emails, student account reminders if they have balances, FAFSA completion. We know that's very important. Verification is back. So we can send information about verification, even campus tours, orientation, which we just showed the previous slide, registration, financial aid, scholarship, housing, when that application is going to be open so they can complete their housing. Also, if there's any type of fee that's that is tied to housing, enrollment fees, test scores, medical records. As you can see, we're in the industry, but this can be very, very, I would say, more of an overload to a student who is not used to completing these tasks. So if you can imagine that, you tell them this is what you need to do, and you expect for the student, even the parent, to complete it, but they're lost. So that's where we can handhold that student. Yes, handhold them and make sure that they complete those tasks so they can be there for the fall. And as I stated, anything that we do with the text campaign, we can also do with the call campaign. So if you're not using us, please do. And we would definitely be able to help you with those communication. So how does it work? You would want to hold a campaign planning meeting with your institutional support consultant. And then what we will do, of course, is draft a message for approval. And a lot of times what we like to do, as most of you know, we like to develop just a communication campaign. Maybe it'll run from May all the way through fall until, that student gets out of the summer and into the class. And where we can just automatically send messages out to your student. And even, like I say, if you already have your texting platform, if you don't have maybe the capacity, maybe you're doing something else on campus, let us take care of that for you. And we can go ahead and contact that student. But once we agree on that content and what we're going to be saying to your student, and we'll approve, both of us are in agreement, then we'll ask you for that data file. And that data file, of course, if we're sending a text or a call campaign, all we need is the student first name, last name, and their cell number. Remember, we want to identify each student by their first name. So it's very important that we do get that name that matches that cell phone number. And so once we have that, we do review the file once we get it, just to make sure there's no duplications or any type of overlap. And what I mean by overlap, I may receive a file to do a FAFSA campaign and also a file for a verification campaign, and Nicolette could be in both files. So if she hasn't completed her FAFSA, how can she be selected for verification? So that's what we mean when there's an overlap. So we may contact you and say, hey, which file does Nicolette needs to be in? So we do review those files and making sure that we are contacting the student. And when we do contact it, it's intentional and that it's effective. And then after everything is done, we do send that message out to the student. So in a nutshell, that's how it works. Like I say, most of you who work with us know how it works. But if you haven't gotten a summer melt campaign in the works, please contact your ISC. And so we'll be able to assist you with that and making sure that that student, once they do apply at your school and have been admitted, that they do follow through and complete all of those tasks. Any questions? We can open the floor for a second for some discussions. If you have any, we would love to answer any of those questions that you may have. Nicolette, I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to share.
Nothing else that I want to share. I think it's great to hear that. I think we all know that the number one thing is that relationship, that personalized relationship with students. I think it's just hard when you're in the day-to-day of still getting new students, retaining the students from last year, just everything. And so it's great to hear that we're all doing so many different things to make sure that we're balancing all of this, and that we have great partners like Trellis to help us, because it's hard to do it all.
Yes. So just as a show of hands too, if you like in the chat, how many of you feel good about the summer? Are you contacting your students? Are you having those very say nudging and soft nudging and touch points with your students? Don't be shy. Put it in the chat. Hey, Martin says yes, that he's definitely doing that. Awesome. I thought I saw a question from Celeria. Did I not see that? Did you see something come up? Okay, I thought I did. I thought I had a question. Okay. And then Laura said, but we can always do better. Absolutely. Let us help you. And we would definitely love to, like I said, assist in getting those students on campus in the fall. Dr. Jones from Jarvis said call campaigns are really happening. That's great. Every day there's a list and the team devise and conquer. All right, Iris, thank you. Solera at Purview says, we are hearing that you have reached out to them and some parents want to know if you are a legit company or just spam. That is good. I'm glad you said that, Soleria. Yes, we do get that in our call center when we are reaching out to the students. And we do ask that our point of contacts at our institutions to kind of let their students know that you partner with Trellis. So when they do get a phone call from us, that they do not think that is spam. Because there are many, many companies out there who are trying to take advantage of students. So I mean, if I were them, I would do the same thing. But yes, we do have some institutions who have been proactive with putting our information on their website to let students know that they have partnered with Trellis and that we are definitely, not a company that's out to spam them. So that we are working with the institution. But when we do our text messaging, the good thing is that we usually use an area code where the school is located. So it looks and feels as if it's coming from the institution. So we normally don't have any issues with our texting campaign. But with our call campaigns, sometimes we do have students and parents who are thinking that we are spam. So if you can let your students know via email or even putting it on your website that you are partnered with Trellis, that will help minimize that. Okay, looks like we're wrapping up a little early here. If we don't have any more questions or comments, we thank you so much for attending today. Thank you, Nicolette, so much for presenting. I will send this webinar out as soon as it becomes available. And if you can complete the short survey at the end, we will really appreciate it as well. Thank you so much. Bye.